Hello friends, this is Yrvind, and now I'm going to do a little work inside here. This side was done yesterday, and now I can lean against that without getting epoxy. So this side is going to be there. So well, what's this? Yeah, the boat is still upside down. And here is the glass fiber. It's going to go into it. So, little by little. Well, I was too ambitious. 2 pieces I was able to put there, and some fillets. So this is for later, and I think it came out okay anyway. So now we do a dive under here. And I'll try to show you. So this I made, and this on the side. And some fillets, well, maybe I can show them. So I'll dive under here. And here up on the sides, and in here. So, well, it's not very clear, but I can show you later. When Mother and Olle company went bankrupt, Olle collapsed. But Mother took charge and sorted things out. She made a deal with the creditors, found work for herself in an office, and for Olle as a teacher. With Mother running her home again, things were better. I was giving a room in the attic, and to avoid Olle rose when he had gone to work and came home when he had gone to bed. For a few years, as an outsider without the right to a degree, I followed the lectures in mathematics at the university. I became deeply engaged in the wonderful mysteries of axiomatics and the real number systems, Riemann and Lebesgue integrals, conformal mapping, and much more. Despite my lack of degree, my mathematical knowledge did impress. People began to talk about my talent. One day, to my surprise, I got a letter offering me a teaching position in a school attached to a child psychiatric clinic. The background was as follows. Some of the patients feared going to school. They were intelligent but shy. They blushed and had pains in their stomach. They were bullied by their schoolmates. A developing child is not static. and sometimes when the situation became too painful, a child would in desperation fight back with a savage force they did not know they possessed and beat their oppressors. This is what we love to see. The problem was that this success often turned to the opposite, turned to the oppressed being the oppressor. The previous timid child became the terror of the school. Dr. Agrell at Hisingen's child psychiatric clinic, who had sent me the letter, had the excellent idea to try to treat shy children before they got into the aggressive phase. They were to be placed in a new school at the clinic. They were in small groups. They were to giving a love and understanding by caring teachers. This would give them self-confidence, thereby cure their blushing and stomach pains. Dr. Agrell thought that I had the right personality to become a good teacher for those children. I gladly accepted the offer. My position as a teacher at the clinic school was of course way beyond my formal qualification, as was my status and pay. I only had to work a few hours a day. I had a lot of spare time. My fellow workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers were all women. But they seemed to like the idea of having an adventurous young man among them. With plenty of money coming in and free summers, I started doing practical experiments with small boats. I bought an 18-foot traditional double-ender for $200. After fitting her out, I launched her in early summer. One day, a friend and I decided to sail to Denmark, a passage of about 40 miles. The sun was out, the wind was fresh, and everything looked nice. We had cleared the coast when suddenly we were hit by a gust. The boat hit over and water flowed in over the coaming. The main sheet had jammed at the lower block, which slid on a hose to leeward. When I dived down to undo the sheet, more water poured in. My friend, a pleasant but maladroit student of philosophy who had never sailed before, panicked, and instead of leaning out to windward, came down in the lee intending to help me. This, of course, made the boat heel even more. Within minutes, the boat was sinking, and I had to shout to him to jump to clear to avoid getting dragged down. We were about a mile offshore. There were no other boats about. We began to swim towards land. After about half an hour, we began to tire and get cold. The shore did not seem to have come any closer. Suddenly, I heard a hoot. Looking behind me, I saw one of those big excursion ferries that steam back and forth between Denmark and Sweden, loaded with tourists, consuming tax-free alcohol. it was bearing down on us. As an idealist, I had always condemned the practice. Now, glad to see the big ship which stopped close to us, I forgave them their immoral business. The rail high above was lined with passengers watching the drama. I could see that 2 crew members were letting a rope ladder down. When we had swum up to the heaving ship's sheer topside, I could see that my friend, not used to any physical activities, was shocked and exhausted. Still, at the rope ladder, he insisted that I should climb first. I told him in no uncertain times that this was no time for courtesies. The rescue was of course a big event aboard. Hundreds of more or less drunk people thronged deck. When we were helped over the rail, they applauded. It was very embarrassing. We were led to a cabin, given dry clothes, warm drinks and food. Back in Göteborg, the crew asked if we would like to speak to waiting newsmen. Giving the choice, we declined. An ambulance drove us home. Next day, our rescue was big news in media. After that embarrassment, I started to look for new solutions concerning a small, cheap, functional boat. To help me in that quest, I had become a member of the AYRS, the Amateur Yacht Research Society. They occupy themselves with the development of new type of boats and gear such as multi-hulls, hydrofoils and self-steering. Just the thing for me. Through their publications, I got interested in multi-hulls. They do not have ballast, therefore they cannot sink. Without the heavy ballast, multi-hulls are light and consequently very fast. In addition to these advantages, their lack of heel makes them comfortable. With decks between the hulls, there also are spaces too. Multi-hulls come in many configurations: single outrigger, catamarans, trimarans and proas. Proas are different. I fell in love with them. They have only one outrigger, and it's always to windward. The boat is not symmetrical about its length axis, but about its athwart axis. It has neither stem nor stern, but a windward and a leeward side. Instead of tacking as an ordinary sailboat, they work to windward in a unique way. They shunt, or shanks change ends, stem becomes sterns, and vice versa each tack. I was convinced that the proa was the boat of the future. During the spring of 1966, I started to build a 10-foot proa in my mother's basement. I gave her a deck on each end and a deck house in the middle. The outrigger was a crude box-shaped plywood construction filled with styrofoam. The cross arms were lashed pieces of wood The sail, a polyethylene sheet. The workmanship was makeshift, nothing to be proud of. The boat was very experimental, just an idea to try. She had no ballast, so I knew she could not sink. I had read multiple pioneer Arthur Piver's books, Transatlantic Trammarine and Trans-Pacific Trammarine, as well as his article in the AYRS publications. There he had given cocksure assurances that a multi-hull could not capsize. That gave me complete confidence in my new boat. With the help of a bicycle, I carried her to a small harbor at the mouth of the river and assembled her. I loaded her with books, a transistor radio, a camera, some food, a girl, and not lost my passport. That done, we paddled her out to the river, raised the sail, and continued out into the fjord. Everything was going well. But when we neared some islands, a gust from the wrong side capsized her. Just like the year before, I was in difficulties. Swimming with a friend in the approaches to Göteborg harbor. Unlike the previous year, the boat did not sink. It was a Saturday afternoon and there was quite a lot of traffic. After a while, a powerboat came alongside and helped us to right the boat. It was early in the summer and the water had not yet become warm. My friend was getting cold, so they took her aboard. I was cold too, but on the other hand, I did not like to give up my boat. So I waved goodbye to them. After sorting out the mess and bringing out most of the water in my clothes, I started to paddle to the nearest land downwind. The paddling produced some heat, and towards the evening I was able to pull the boat up on land in a small boat harbor. By now I was more tired than wet. Once on land, I had a final go at getting the salt water out of her. That done, I took a bus home, carrying as many of my wet things with me as I could. After a good night's sleep, I was back the next morning. When I had cleaned her and straightened things out, I relaunched her and set out. This time I was prepared to sudden wind shift. When I had plenty of space, I shunted her like a proa. In narrow waters, I took her the normal way like a single outrigger. Without any problems, I arrived at our island. She worked okay, but the air had gone out of the project. The girl had left me and my passport was reduced to pulp.